agenda today. Talk about Microsoft Teams value and how we can share with our colleagues. I will then introduce you to Microsoft Viva and how it relates to Microsoft Teams. We'll talk about the steps on how to securely collaborate and what are the considerations for keeping your organization on a secure footing. Then we'll talk about governing Microsoft Teams. We'll finish with what are your next steps in this journey of securely collaborating in Microsoft Teams. My name is Daniel Glenn. I am a Microsoft MVP. I am the collaboration practice lead here at InfoWorks. I do training on Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Power BI, and others in the Microsoft 365 platform. I do lead, and I'm the Microsoft 365 Nashville organization, and I also co-host a weekly podcast called the 365 Message Center Show. My co-host is Daryl Webster from Auckland, New Zealand, and we cover everything about what's new in Microsoft 365. So love for you to join our podcast every week. Video and audio links are on 365mcs.com. So we need to start to rethink work. It's no longer a place you go. It's a set of activities that people need to be able to perform from anywhere. As we balance work and life through the lens of a video call, research shows it is changing workplace culture. While people feel more empathetic toward their colleagues now that they have a better view of life at home, nearly 60% of people surveyed said they feel less connected to their colleagues since moving to remote work. With the sheer volume of online meetings today, there's a huge opportunity for noise to arise, whether it comes in the form of unpreparedness, distractions, attendees not feeling included in the meeting, or a lack of following through after the meeting. Meetings can be counterproductive. People typically struggle with paying attention due to digital distractions, multitasking, poor sound or video quality, or sharing. It's easy to disengage altogether when in a virtual meeting, especially, I guess, if the meeting is disorganized or lacks clear direction. Informed by research along with conversations with customers, Microsoft has developed 7 keys to success for every business and IT leader to empower people for this new world of work, with the tools to deliver those, the new way of working at scale. The first is all about rebuilding the social capital and company culture to help people feel connected and engaged from anywhere. The second is about prioritizing your health and well-being. The third speaks to learning on the job and role reinvention. The fourth talks about unlocking organizational knowledge and the unique experience in people's heads to benefit the broader organization. The fifth is about automating processes and tasks. The sixth explains that we need to include everyone in this digital transformation. And the seventh is about empowering people with secure, private, compliant experiences. And today we will focus on that seventh one, how we can deliver a secure platform that is trusted to deliver the right content and empower our employees in the best modern experience. Microsoft Teams is your productivity platform. From meetings, we've talked about, chat, and collaboration across Microsoft 365 and beyond. To help teams be more productive, we really need to change the way we think about meetings. Today, a meeting is typically treated as a standalone event, and the phone and video conferencing tools people use are designed to support that one event. What if we approached meetings in a more connected way? Not a discrete events, but as a series of connected gatherings that drive collaborative progress. This approach is at the heart of how the meeting experience was built in Microsoft Teams. Teams is built to help people meet smarter, stay focused, and achieve more. Teams, of course, is engaging group meetings with features like live captions and background noise, and of course, custom background scenes. Another new addition to Microsoft Teams is breakout rooms. You can split your meeting audience into groups to facilitate training or brainstorming. As an organizer, you can move throughout all the breakout rooms to facilitate and help keep everyone on track. Each room can store their thoughts that happened in those breakout rooms, and then when they're come back together, you can discuss the results, whether those are tracked in OneNote or on a whiteboard. Microsoft Teams has first and foremost that rich online meeting experience, but you can also reduce email clutter by chatting with one or more colleagues with a rich meeting experience in that Teams chat. Of course, we have collaboration as well. Seamlessly collaborate with team members on shared documents that are backed by SharePoint, with the ability to co-author directly in those documents without ever leaving Teams. And lastly, Teams replaces the need for a desk phone, allowing you to make and receive audio and video calls, together with support for voicemail, including voicemail transcriptions for convenience. Collaboration with the Teams is as secure and robust as you would expect from Office 365, with the ability to edit at the same time as your teammates and share to directed people or groups, all from within the Teams application. All files that are referenced in the channels are available in the Files menu. These are all backed by SharePoint. You can open them within Teams in the browser or directly in the app. The rich co-authoring experience lets you make changes at the same time as others, and so everyone always has access to the latest version of the document. Because these files are backed up by SharePoint, all files can easily be shared with members outside the team that the file was initially shared with. Simply click Share, enter the name, and even add a message. Since permissions are managed through SharePoint, the link will only work for the intended recipient, making sure everything remains secure. And in the event you need some SharePoint features that are not available in Teams, you have the option to pop out to SharePoint directly from here. We can also collaborate in a Teams chat with colleagues by attaching a document from OneDrive, link within Teams, or from our computer. But that's not the only way we can collaborate on a document. We can also add a document to a tab within a channel so that all the team members can stay informed about a policy or procedure or easily work on that same document. We can also add a tab to integrate other services like Microsoft List, Power BI, and Microsoft Forms. Here I'm adding a form to a discharge form for this team to fill out when they are discharging a patient. This helps keep the team organized and collects the necessary information for each action. We can then build workflow behind this form. So then approvals get sent out, or we can store the information securely in another system. Last month, Microsoft Viva was announced. To start with, Viva will have 4 modules and more will be added in the future. Each of these builds on existing capabilities in Microsoft 365 and are integrated directly in Teams. As you can see from the UI here for each module. First up, we have Viva Connections. It is a company-branded employee app in Teams. It is a gateway to your employee experience with personalized news, communications, tasks, people, and resources. It provides a single curated employee destination that can be configured for specific roles, like frontline workers, for instance. So leaders can communicate and engage their employees, and employees can get easy access to tools and resources they need from one place. Viva Connections builds on existing capabilities in Microsoft 365 like SharePoint and Yammer, and it pulls your communications together into a pre-configured app in Teams, designed for both desktop and mobile workers. It also acts as a launching pad to the other 3 Viva modules, and let's talk about those. The next is Viva Insights, which brings together workplace analytics, My Analytics, into a unified Insights app in Teams to provide data-driven and privacy-protected insights for individuals, managers, and leaders. For example, employees get personalized insights only they can see that help them protect their time for breaks, focused work, and learning in order to promote improved productivity and well-being. Next, we have Microsoft Viva Topics. Topics focuses on knowledge and expertise. Topics applies AI to identify knowledge and experts and organize them into shared topics. AI automatically creates a topic page for each topic. It's like Wikipedia for the enterprise, where AI does the first draft of these pages. And these topic pages are surfaced as what's called topic cards right in the flow of work in Office, and as we see here, inside Teams. The last module that will be available very shortly is Viva Learning. Viva Learning allows employees to easily discover informal and formal learning in the flow of work. It aggregates content from LinkedIn Learning, from Microsoft Learn, and even third-party training content, and your own organization's content, all in one place. Along with providing aggregation and recommendations, it also allows managers to assign and track training, as well as report on training within and across teams. Microsoft Teams powers Microsoft Viva experiences, and Microsoft Viva connects your employees to your company message, gives insights to how well you are doing, provides experience and knowledge using AI, and delivers learning for improving skills and helping your organizational growth. Now let's talk about collaborating securely in Teams. People started using Teams not only for video calls and communication, but now for collaboration too. What we know is that without Microsoft 365 tools, organizations are having a hard time just finding their content, where it lives in their systems, and then preventing it from leaving the organization inappropriately. Most organizational data is not classified, it's not governed, and it's not protected for data leakage or theft. A big security concern for leaders in our work climate is information security, of course. Making sure that our content is not shared with the wrong people, but is also available to the right people. A recent Microsoft research study shows that the #1 concern of organizations is protecting and governing their sensitive data while also complying with regulations such as HIPAA and various other governmental regulations. This is a challenge we are facing. We must strike a balance. On one hand, we cannot keep all of our data ultra secure, locked in a box where no one has a key even, but we also can't let everyone have access to any and all content at any time from anywhere without controls. How we approach this really depends on how our organization works, how it is regulated, and the type of data we have. 5 factors we have found to be key in understanding how you need to approach security of your data begins with organizational culture. What is your corporate stance on data, and how important is it to your business? Second is regulations. Are there regulations that you must comply with? There are many types, whether you're in healthcare or finance or maybe a publicly traded company, or if you deal with governmental agencies, you may also have to deal with regulations. How sensitive is your data? Just because you are in a regulated vertical or your company culture dictates that you need to keep certain types of information private, that doesn't mean that all data is created equal. The word template for sending out a birthday announcement in your organization is not as important as patient healthcare data. The 4th factor is, where are you on your journey for data governance? If you're just starting to think about how to classify data, then approaching your situation with a massive project on how you can utilize all the features and functionality in Microsoft 365 to secure your data will take a while. It doesn't mean you don't need to do it. It just means that your first step shouldn't be implementing 500 sensitivity labels across all your data. Your first step needs to be maybe understanding what type of data you have so that you can come up with those categories. And lastly, what do you have available to you? There are multiple options in Microsoft 365 licensing to give you security and compliance around your shared content. If you, for instance, are on an entry-level plan, you can get an add-on for security and compliance. If you have a E5 subscription or comparable subscription, then you already have multiple features available to you through your licensing. Microsoft 365 keeps users, data, devices, and applications safe. We can, with identity and access management, automatically block access for users if their identity or device becomes compromised or require MFA for elevated risk levels. We can discover third-party cloud apps that are in use and assess their risk level so you can sanction or block them. With information protection, we can protect sensitive data when it travels outside of our organization via email, and we all see that data being emailed around. Or it could leave via a USB drive or a third-party SaaS app, a software as a service app, cloud app. We can automatically identify sensitive information like credit card numbers or banking routing numbers and apply a label with protection to the file. And that label can be automatic, or it can provide a recommendation to the user when they're adding the content. We can detect and protect sensitive data that falls under compliance regulations. Under threat protection, we have advanced email protection against phishing attempts and unknown, or what some call zero-day threats. We can also detect and remove ransomware, then recover my files. Lastly, we can teach users to guard against email phishing by simulating an attack in a safe environment. And under security management, we can recommend actions you can take to improve your security posture in your organization. Detailed reports on the latest threats so you can answer questions like, how well am I protected against the latest threat vectors? We can do all of that across our different environments, whether the data is on premises, in Microsoft Office apps, inside any of the platforms in Microsoft 365, including Power BI and Teams, and even on non-Microsoft clouds. All right, let's switch a little bit here and talk about sharing governance. Given the what we've talked about previously on what are the capabilities, as well as what are the things we need to be thinking about, let's apply that then to how we need to approach sharing governance. Your sharing strategy and governance must include all of these. You must enable your employees to collaborate with each other to get their job done. Remaining in silos within your organization will only stifle innovation. and hold your organization back from excelling. Your users also need to be able to safely and securely share and collaborate outside partners, such as marketing vendors and partners, outside counsel, customers. Finally, even though our environments can be complex, we do need to make sure that we are identifying and appropriately securing sensitive content within our organization. Knowing the core functionality of your tools will help you come up with a governance plan. Since OneDrive is the central location for my files, then security boundaries and governance should be defined around the concept of OneDrive being used for personal work. SharePoint is where we collaborate with a large group and share news and policies out through to our company portals. We can define a governance plan and apply labels to sites that enable the collaboration that is needed per the appropriate workload for each site. Knowing that Teams does facilitate collaboration, utilizing SharePoint and OneDrive for its file storage, as well as providing the meetings and chat experiences, will drive your decisions around how you will classify teams and workloads as confidential or public, for example. SharePoint is the backbone for Microsoft Teams document storage. Every team has a SharePoint site, and files within all standard channels within a Microsoft team is stored in that same SharePoint site, just in different folders that are named the same as the channel. When you create a private channel, though, within Microsoft Teams, a separate SharePoint site is created to house the documents for that private channel. This is big because separate security is needed for that private channel. That's why you set it up as a private channel. It's a subgroup of the membership of the team. I had the privilege of being part of the core team working with Microsoft on how to make Teams private channels function with SharePoint. During that work with Microsoft to architect how to make private channels work, we did feel that a separate site was just better for, it allows SharePoint to be able to not just be file storage for that private channels, you can also create news and new pages to share in Teams as tabs in that private channel in Teams. Create new Microsoft lists, all powered by SharePoint site, shared within that private channel, also sharing that security that you've set up in that private channel. So again, every team has a SharePoint site, and all general channels are part of that same SharePoint site for file storage. But then each private channel gets its own SharePoint site. OneDrive also plays a part in storing files for Microsoft Teams. When you're in a chat, whether that is just between you and one other person or between you and a group of people, any files that you share out within the chat will be stored in your OneDrive. So given that SharePoint and OneDrive are intertwined and linked with Microsoft Teams, any strategy and governance plan around sharing in Microsoft Teams must include a strategy for SharePoint and OneDrive. Sharing settings for SharePoint and OneDrive are connected, and you'll find that sharing settings for OneDrive can be set more restrictive than SharePoint, but they can't be less restrictive. You have 4 options for sharing files. You can select to not allow external sharing. You can select only to allow existing external users to participate in sharing. And this means any sharing that has already happened can continue to be accessed by those external users, but no new sharing can be done to external users. The third option is to allow new sharing as well as existing sharing with external. And it is important to note here that a sign-in is required by that external user. And the fourth option is to allow sharing for external users as well as anonymous users. Sometimes this is referred to as anonymous links. And by the way, Microsoft does recommend allowing sharing links, including anonymous sharing links. The reason why is if you don't allow easy sharing to happen, then users will usually get around it by emailing the content or sharing it via another service. If you allow anonymous sharing in Microsoft 365, you get to use the security features I mentioned earlier to make sure that the content is being appropriately shared, that it is not sensitive information being shared, and you can utilize features like preventing downloads or making sure that documents are encrypted when downloading. As discussed earlier, SharePoint is the backbone for collaboration in Microsoft Teams. But there's also another aspect to sharing, and that's Microsoft 365 groups. Groups are just special security containers, an Azure Active Directory security container that give access to connected services like Yammer and Teams and Power BI. So, when determining your governance for sharing, you need to keep in mind that Microsoft 365 groups, external sharing settings, are powered by Azure Active Directory Business to Business, or otherwise known as Azure B2B. Within Azure B2B, you can configure settings like turning on or off external sharing for your whole tenant, or just per group, per user, or per service like Power BI. You can make sure that guest access is reviewed. And you can also block certain domains from even being allowed within your organization as guests. Teams has a multi-layer dependency for allowing guests to be added into Teams and therefore allowed to collaborate. As I mentioned, Azure B2B controls the experience across your tenant. You can set within Teams itself whether guests can be added into a team. Guests are added to Microsoft 365 groups, but you can control whether that can even happen or not. And finally, within SharePoint and OneDrive itself, you can control whether sharing happens at all with external users in those services, and if it's allowed, at what level, as I discussed earlier. All right, let's shift gears and just talk about what are your next steps. Your key takeaways today that you need to take an assessment of your organization's sharing needs. Then you need to look at your data and determine what types of data you have, from general information all the way up to sensitive or classified. Then you should look to understand where you are from a security perspective and start your governance plan. Then, utilizing Microsoft 365 and especially Teams, you can improve your organization's collaboration and communication securely and mitigate your risk when working with outside users. It's been proven by several studies that projects are close to 80% more successful when you engage with a partner. InfoWorks, my company, has been working for our clients for 24 years to guide them in being on the path to success. As owners of the company, all InfoWorks employees have a vested interest in the success of our clients. Our strength really comes from the diversity of our workforce and all of our experiences. We endeavor to have a deep understanding of our clients' organization and drive to fit technology to meet their business needs. InfoWorks has a great team of developers, technology implementers, business consultants, and professionals with decades of experience. Our clients are in many verticals, including healthcare, finance, education, government, manufacturing, and more. We service those verticals with analytic solutions, from analyzing data to creating data warehouses, and then fashioning dynamic reports in platforms like Power BI. Our management consulting is second to none, with our dedication to understanding the business problems and delivering a high-quality, streamlined solution to help you succeed in your business objectives. Finally, our technology solutions, including building software solutions from the ground up, or implementing an existing solution like Microsoft 365 and everywhere in between. Also, if you're unsure of the right choices to make, InfoWorks will be your partner in navigating the ever-changing landscape of technology. I do want to say thank you for joining. I appreciate your time today. I'll turn to the questions in Q&A, and we have several. So I can turn to that and see what we got here. All right. Okay. The first question up is Microsoft Viva located within Teams, or is it a different app? Microsoft Viva and the components that are made up of Microsoft Viva have underlying technologies on all of them. And really what Viva is putting those together and making them available in Teams as an app. So the technology, for instance, connections. I mentioned it's SharePoint and Yammer and other features in that collaboration. The Viva Connections is not an app, is not in Teams, but is an app in Teams that is consuming those services and presenting it to you in that fashion. I hope that answers your question. If not, you can throw that back into Q&A. How do you access SharePoint sites created by Teams? So the way you do that in Teams, you can go to the Files tab in each channel, and there's actually a menu item that says Open in SharePoint. And when you do that, it'll launch your browser directly into that SharePoint site, into that showing that document library, and then you can navigate there. Of course, that site is also available in search. You can go to the SharePoint home area by going into the waffle, the Office apps waffle up at the top left of your browser. When you're in your intranet and go to SharePoint, that lands you onto your SharePoint home, giving you access to all your SharePoint sites, and you can access it there as well. The next question, if you already have a SharePoint site, can you steer Teams to utilize this pre-existing site for channel info? Yes and no. So let's start with the no part. You can't say, I have a SharePoint site, I'm going to create a team, I want that site to be used for this team as storage. You can't do that. But what you can do is once you create that team, you can add that document library that's on that SharePoint site in as a tab in any of your channels in that team. Now remember, you need to have the permissions synced between that SharePoint site and your team. You can also have individual files as a tab, like I demoed earlier in the presentation. You can have SharePoint pages or news that is part of that SharePoint site, existing site, and shown in your team, whether it's a tab or you add it as a message. So that's how you can utilize it, but you can't say, I want this team to use that SharePoint site exclusively for storage. That is all of the questions that we have in the Q&A for today. I want to thank everyone for joining today. Please reach out if you have any questions or if InfoWorks can help in any way, as I mentioned before. Again, thank you so much and have a great day.